So today we're going to look at the hymn, at the song, the gospel song, I'll Fly Away. Now when I chose it because this song has deep, deep Arkansas roots. If you know much about the song, you know that it's really embedded in our part of the country, western central Arkansas, and then eastern Oklahoma, and then southern Missouri. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But as I chose the song, obviously it's a song that speaks of what is to come, what God is preparing for us. But as I reflected on it, I prayed through the song, sang through it. It surprised me. And there are some things about it that I wasn't fully expecting, but it has really ministered to me. It has blessed me, and I hope that it does the same thing for you this morning as we look at it together. So Albert Brumley was the composer of the song, and he was born on a cotton farm near Spiro, Oklahoma, on October 29th of 1905, 2 years before Oklahoma gained its statehood. His parents, William and Sarah Brumley, were sharecroppers working in the fields, picking cotton to make a living, and life was hard working on the farm. The days consisted of long work and low pay. His parents made the best of the situation, though, which shows in their music that Albert wrote over his career. Many of his songs refer to a cabin or love for his mother and the beauty of nature. And music was a part of his life from an early age. His father, William, played the fiddle. His older brother, Tom, played the guitar. When Albert was a teenager, he was able to attend a traveling singing school sponsored by the Hartford Music Institute. How many of you have been to Hartford, Arkansas? Well, it's small enough that you might have been there and not really noticed. And it's south of Fort Smith, and I'm pretty sure Logan County. Somebody here could probably correct me on that. But that was the seat of this singing school. How many of you know about singing schools and shake note singing? Yeah, okay. Our part of the country is where this started. So he was. This was the school where he got his love for music and began to develop as a musician. And it's when he decided to pursue a career in music. And it was in 1929 that he began writing his most famous song, I'll Fly Away. And he was back at his family farm near Spiro, Oklahoma, helping with picking cotton and singing a song that was popular at that time titled, If I Had the Wings of an Angel, which is also known as the Prisoner's Song. And he suddenly thought about flying away. And as he reported, he said, actually, I was dreaming of flying away from that cotton field when I wrote I'll Fly Away. And he worked on the song until 1931, and it would eventually be published by the Hartford Music Company of Hartford, Arkansas, in the fall of 1932. Now here are the lyrics, just to give you a preview, because we're going to sing this later on in the service. Some glad morning, when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. When the shadows of this life have grown, like a bird from prison bars has flown, and just a few more weary days, and then to a land where joys shall never end, I'll fly away. In 1937, Albert moved the family to Harrison, Arkansas. And he stayed just a few months before moving his family to Powell, Missouri, where he lived the rest of his life in a home that he built for his family. And in 1944, Albert opened Albert E. Brumley and Sons Music across the street from his family home in that little town. And the company grew, as did his reputation as a songwriter. The very first known recording of I'll Fly Away was in 1944 by a gospel group known as the Selah Jubilee Singers, and there they are. But it was in 1949, a recording by a group called the Chuckwagon Gang that would go on to sell more than 1 million copies, a feat that will be considered a platinum album by today's standards. Now, after a meeting in Veneta, Oklahoma in 1968, Albert was visiting with J.D. Sumner along with two of his sons, and they talked about promoting a large all-night gospel sing. And after some time searching for a venue, the Parsons Rodeo Arena in beautiful Springdale, Arkansas was chosen to host the very first Albert E. Brumley sundown to sunup gospel sing. Now, I said that right, sundown to sunup. It was an all-nighter, folks. There were some people at the 8:30 service who approached me after the service and said, I was there. Anybody here in this room been to one of those? Who will admit it? All right. These things were a cultural phenomenon in our part of the country, and they continue in some form or another even to this very day. In 1970, Albert was inducted as a charter member in the Nashville Songwriters Association International Hall of Fame, and he would go on to be inducted into 7 more Halls of Fame: the Gospel Music Association, the Southern Gospel Music Association, Oklahoma Music, Arkansas Entertainers, Ozark Entertainers, Country Music Songwriters, and the Oklahoma Jazz. His songs have been on 11 Grammy Award-winning albums, the latest of which was in 2018. Now think of this. He passed away in 1977, and his songs are still winning Grammy Awards. And it was a 2018 recording by Reba McEntire with a collection of hymns. And no lesser authority than Wikipedia, we always like to quote Wikipedia, says that I'll Fly Away has been called the most recorded gospel song in history. And it's frequently used in worship services by Baptists, Pentecostals, Nazarenes, the Churches of Christ, and many Methodists. And that is us. Now, just about every gospel singer and most country singers you can imagine, including such classics as Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Charlie Daniels, Merle Haggard, Willie Nelson, have recorded versions of I'll Fly Away. The very first known recording by Bob Dylan is of him playing the harmonica on a 1962 recording of I'll Fly Away by artist Carolyn Hester. The Boston Symphony Orchestra has recorded it. Kanye West has recorded it. And Sean Puff Daddy Combs included a snippet of it in one of his songs. All these contributed to the eclectic covers of this song, Born in a Cotton Field in Oklahoma. Now, you could easily spend a nice couple of days just searching recordings of I'll Fly Away on YouTube, and you probably wouldn't reach the end of it. One of the most interesting recordings is that the marching band of Jacksonville State University in Alabama has a 50 or 60-year tradition of singing this song at the end of every game. I've got a recording for you, folks. Here we go. Ready? It's going to be great. That is amazing. Every game, at the end of every football game, they sing that song. I loved watching the LSU coaches trying to get out of the way. I'm pretty sure that they were not really sure what was going on with that. That was quite a rendition of I'll Fly Away. So what is it that gives this song its appeal? Why is it so popular? I mean, obviously there's the music, that frames the lyrics, which are memorable. And even if you don't know all the words, you likely can sing those 3 words at least. I'll fly away. There's something about the shape of the melody, that driving rhythm that makes it singable, and that call and response architecture invites even people who don't consider themselves singers to jump in on those repeated phrases. But I think it's more than the music that makes this song so appealing. As I reflect on it, I think it taps into something in the human spirit that is universal, and it's a spirit of longing and a spirit of hope. Every one of us here are looking for something. Marketers know this, don't they? Masters of this craft, they know how to tap into our sense of dissatisfaction and to create desires before we even know we have them. Now, true confession, how many of you have more things in your cabinets, closets, or garages than you really need? Yeah, that's what I thought. Now you think about that thing you wanted so badly last year. And if you just had that whatchamacallit, life would be so much better. And then you got it. And then, you needed another one. Or you needed a different color. And you keep looking. Satisfaction is so elusive. Sometimes that looking becomes a deep, deep longing. The hardship that Albert Brumley knew in his early years in that hardscrabble life in rural eastern Oklahoma, it gave rise to longing for a better day and a better life. And songs arise out of those experiences. People sing. You could argue, in fact, that the best songs are the sad songs. Can you imagine country music with only happy songs? Really, everybody's truck runs great. Nobody's cheating on anybody. And all the hound dogs stay home and they never bark at night. Nobody would listen. I'll Fly Away may not be a sad song. And it's usually sung with that lively tempo and a carefree feeling. But I think you can also hear something else. If you slow that tempo down and you linger a little over the lyrics, you can hear emotions of longing for something better with hints of sadness and even lament at how things are now. It sings about the shadows of life growing old. Life is a prison that we long to escape. Our days are weary and joyless. And all those things are going to change one day, but not yet. And that's where we live for now, in the not yet of the present, longing for that one day when we'll sing hallelujah and things will be better and we'll be in a better place. You can hear this longing in the story of Israel. You hear the longing for a land that was promised, but it's off in the distance. You hear longing to escape captivity in Egypt and Babylon. You hear longing to rebuild a temple and a city that was in ruins, and they're longing for a Messiah. They're longing for Jesus. And you can hear it in the songs that they wrote during those times. In fact, out of 150 psalms in our book of Psalms, 50 of them are songs of sorrow and lament. Many of them were composed during those times of captivity when they were in exile, a long, long way from their home. Psalms like Psalm 44, which says, "Awake, why are you asleep, O Lord? Arise, cast us not off forever. Why do you hide your face, forgetting our woe and our oppression?" Have any of us talked to God like that? Or Psalm 13 that says, "How long, O Lord, will you utterly forget me? How long will you hide your face from me?" Or Psalm 90, which says, "We are consumed by your anger. We're terrified by your indignation. You have set our iniquities before you. Our secret sins are in the light of your presence. All our days pass away under your wrath. We finish our years with a moan. Our days may come to 70 years or 80 if our strength endures. Yet the best of them are but trouble and sorrow, for they quickly pass and we fly away." Jesus even gasped the words to Psalm 22 from the cross as he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish?" You also hear these songs of longing in the songs of enslaved Africans in our own country, from our own country's shameful history, exiled from home and even exiled from the decency of being treated as human beings, they sang. And they sang, I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. Or Jesus walked this lonesome valley. He had to walk it by himself. Nobody else could walk it for him. I'm just a poor, wayfaring stranger, traveling far, far away from home. Or sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home. Such longing. And you hear it in the songs that we know well. Songs like, on Jordan's stormy banks I stand and cast a wishful eye. Or when we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright, shining as the sun. And you hear it in today's song, I'll fly away. Now, I bet most of us in this room would say life is good. Life is just pretty good. We have much to be thankful for. We have so much to enjoy. But I also suspect that everyone in this room has at least something that you are longing for. Something that you wish were different. Something you really wish were better. We're longing for something that is not yet, for something to be different, for something to be better. We're longing for relief from illness or financial distress or broken relationships or from this pandemic that is still hanging over us, and who knows what else. But I really think that our greatest longing is for companionship of those we love and those who love us. Now, these spirituals and these gospel songs, they sing about home, don't they? And what is it that makes a place home? It's not the pictures on the walls. It's not the furniture or the architecture, as beautiful as those may be. It's the people who are there, isn't it? Accomplishments or accolades, acquisitions, those are all nice, but those really don't comfort us for very long. We'll want a new toy. We'll crave more approval. We'll want another success. Those are all part of the human spirit and part of our nature, but they're really not what we are longing for most. Like you, I have sat with a few people at the end of their lives. No one asked me to bring that plaque or that trophy or that award for them to enjoy. As long as consciousness lasted, they wanted to see the faces. They wanted to hear the voices of their loved ones. That longing for love, that deep, abiding longing for love, it's part of our DNA, isn't it? It's woven into our humanity by God himself. You remember what God said in Genesis? He said, it's not good for you to be alone. The need for companionship is what that speaks of. It speaks of our need for love. We are made for each other. You and I are made for each other. And yet this is often where we are the most broken, where we struggle the most. Human love by its very nature is imperfect. It's incomplete. Our deep longing is to be loved for who we are, to be fully known, and yet fully loved. But it's that fully known part that frightens us, isn't it? Who of us in here would like for other people to know everything about us and hope that they would still love us? Our deep longing is to be loved for who we are, to be fully known, and yet fully loved. But it seems that we cannot truly and fully know another person, no matter how much goodwill we bring to that relationship. And without getting too philosophical, in one sense, we live alone. For there are thoughts and feelings that we are simply not able to express to another, no matter how much we may wish to, or to share them with anyone else. No matter how articulate we are, no matter how sensitive we may be, our thoughts remain ours, and our communication to get those out of ourselves into someone else's mind is imperfect at best. Popular author Scott Turow puts it well with this quote. He says, "How do we ever know what's in another person's heart or mind? If we're always a mystery to ourselves, then what is the chance of understanding anybody else?" I would just add, if you're ever tempted to tell someone else that you know what they're thinking, I would really encourage you to not say that. It's highly unlikely that you do. Sometimes we don't even know what we're thinking, right? But God has not left us alone. He's not left us in this brokenness. He's not left us by ourselves. The one who created us, He knows us. He knows us. And the really, really good news of the gospel is that He still loves us. We're not only made for each other, we are essentially made for God. St. Augustine famously said, "You have made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they can find rest in you." In his book, Hearing God, which I'm reading now and I highly recommend, about developing prayer as a conversational relationship with God, in it he writes, "God is able to penetrate and to intertwine Himself within the fibers of the human self in such a way that those who are enveloped in His loving companionship will never be alone." I love that phrase. Those who are enveloped in His loving companionship will never be alone. Think of what it means to literally be surrounded by God's presence. And then, because of God's love for us, something happens inside of us. This love is transforming. It changes us. It takes us to a better place. It makes us better people. And it releases us from the prisons of guilt and despair, from loneliness and abandonment and anger. And we are changed. And then, like God, who takes the risk of loving us, you think of that? God takes a big risk in loving us. Then we can take the risk of loving others by letting them love us. Now, rather than flying away from some unbearable problems and heartache, we fly then right into the heart of God, and our longing is fulfilled and our hopes are realized. "I'll Fly Away" is a song of deep longing, but it's also a song of great hope. And as good as it is to hope for heaven and a life of eternal bliss, the hope God offers us is actually, it's much, much more than that. I think it's child's play to think of heaven as just simply a place where we all live happily ever after. And there's not a thing wrong with longing for heaven, with trying to imagine what's it going to be like when we get there. But our imaginations are usually something like all the things that we enjoy here, only better, right? If you like fishing, then heaven is the best lake that you can imagine. If you like ice cream and apple pie, then heaven is going to be one big, endless buffet. You like it? You're going to get it forever in heaven. No doubt, heaven will be wonderful. In fact, it's going to be better than anything you or I could imagine. Paul says, he writes in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 9, he says, "No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no human mind has conceived the things God has prepared for those who love Him." For God offers us not simply a place, God offers us Himself. And as Pastor Andrew read earlier from 1 Thessalonians, "And so we will be with the Lord forever." God offers us a place where we can be fully known and fully loved, without qualification, without exception. And the one who knows us most completely is also the one who loves us most fully. I want to close with sort of a spiritual exercise, if you don't mind, and you can stay seated for this. But it's Psalm 139. I've read this a lot for many years, but several months ago I started reading it every day. And it's just part of my daily prayer time. And I read it in different ways. I want to read a few verses of it right now. And then I want to go back and read it in a different way. But I want you to listen to Psalm 139. It says, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain." When you think of that longing that we have inside of us, that longing for something better, and we realize that it really is a longing for someone, and that someone is God, who loves us, who knows us. There are times when I read this and I'm not feeling well inside. There are times when I feel defeated, or I feel like I'm just not performing up to the task, or times when I have let people down and I'm just not being who and what I want to be. And when I hear these words, I hear God saying, I know. I already know. I want you to listen to these, and I'm going to change the wording just a little bit. And rather than us saying these to God, I want you to hear God speaking to you right now with these words. I have searched you, and I know you. I know when you sit and when you rise. I perceive your thoughts from afar. I discern your going out and your lying down. I am familiar with all of your ways. Before a word is on your tongue, I know it completely. I hem you in behind and before. I lay my hand upon you. Where could you go from my spirit? Where could you flee from my presence? If you go up to the heavens, I am there. If you make your bed in the depths, I am already there. If you rise on the wings of the dawn, and if you settle on the far side of the sea, even there, my hand will guide you. My right hand will hold you fast. That's heaven. I'm looking forward to what comes next after this life. Jesus told us that he was going to prepare a place for us, and he will do that. And that place is where he will be, and we will be with him. Jesus said, this is eternal life, to know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, your only Son, whom you have sent. The place is going to be beautiful, but it's not just the things on the wall or the furniture. It's the person who is there waiting for us. Some glad morning, God is there, and we will be there too. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.